What's up everybody, it's Druckmann Gaming here. So recently I brought up my Patreon account in a video where I talked to you about, that you are able to support me there for whatever amount you want and you get some really cool rewards in return. For example, for just the smallest support that you can give me, you will already get access to an exclusive video that I'm going to be making for you every month. So all these, cool kind of rewards that you can get in return to help me out and to make this channel, the biggest it can be. And many of you have since done that, and the biggest reward that I have on there is that people are able to actually give me a topic that I will then talk about in the video. And so that's what Seth did. Seth right now is my biggest supporter on Patreon, and he was able to actually, submit a certain video topic that I will be talking about today. So what he says is, hey Robin, if Naughty Dog decides to create a new IP for their next game, then what would you like to see them do? So that's what this video is going to be about. I'm going to be giving you my personal wish list, I guess, for a next Naughty Dog game, a new IP from them that is not, a sequel to The Last of Us or whatever we're getting. Because yeah, I've said that I think we're gonna get a sequel to The Last of Us first, but I'm sure they're gonna be starting a new IP after that, and then yeah, we'll see exactly what that is going to be, right? So I've been thinking about this for a long time. What would I personally want from Naughty Dog as a next big series that they do? And the thing is, it's really hard. I just can't come up with a topic very easily like that, because they, as a studio with 300 people working there, have 4 years to work something really cool out, and you can't possibly expect me as a YouTuber, to just come up with a really cool game idea all of a sudden. So that's why, it's more of a wish list or kind of points of reference, I guess, things I just would like to see in that game coming back. They've already been openly talking about it, actually. They have been looking into a fantasy or a sci-fi new IP that they want to start, and that's why so many people right now are already having the discussion, should it be sci-fi, should it be fantasy? And for me personally, I will say it doesn't really matter that much. Like, it's not about the setting it takes place in. I personally do prefer fantasy over sci-fi. I think the majority would actually prefer a sci-fi game from them, but that's not personally, for me. I guess I'm not as big of a fan of sci-fi as I am of fantasy, but at the same time, it's all about the kind of, story that they're going to tell, or the kind of game that it's gonna turn out to be, because you can have a really cool sci-fi game that I will enjoy a lot, or you can have a cool fantasy game. It's just in itself, it's about what exactly they're going to do with the setting. It could still be a realistic game too or something, or more in the form of Uncharted or The Last of Us, if you get what I mean. So let's just get into these actual things that I would like to see from a next Naughty Dog game. The very first thing that I think is very important is that they stick to the formula that they have been doing with Uncharted and The Last of Us. And what I mean by that is I would personally want from them a third-person, story-driven game. And, of course it is because I just simply enjoy those type of games a lot. Now, you do hear a lot of people say that they would like to see Naughty Dog do something with a different genre. Like, man, wouldn't it be awesome if Naughty Dog made an open-world game? And I totally get what you mean, and they probably would be able to deliver a really, really cool game in that genre. But and I would have actually agreed with you on the fact that they should be making one of those if it wasn't for the fact that right now we're simply not seeing a lot of the games anymore that Naughty Dog makes. These linear, story-driven type of experiences, I mean, are we really getting a lot of them this generation? No. It seems that a lot of it is RPGs and open-world games and multiplayer-focused games, but where exactly have those story-driven type of experiences been? The type of games that those are, what we get from them these days seem to be a lot of indie games, or the more smaller, artsy, really, like they just have a certain style to it then most of the time. It's not exactly like a true blockbuster movie story-driven type of game. Really, Naughty Dog is like one of the only studios that seems to right now be doing that, and I find that a real big surprise because it is such a success, and those games do sell so well, and people talk about Uncharted all the time and The Last of Us, and that they are one of their favorite games of all time, so I would think that many developers would be making games like this, but it just doesn't seem to be the case for some reason, because at the same time a lot of people also want replay value in their games, and they wanted to offer 50 hours of content in the single player alone, and that's why we see so many open world games and what I just talked about. So what I would personally want from Naughty Dog is a story driven linear experience game, just as they did with Uncharted and The Last of Us. you know, talking about that, I think it really needs to have varied locations, and they were already very known for that with, you know, Crash Bandicoot, Jak and Daxter, Uncharted, Last of Us in a lesser extent, I would say, because I feel like the three previous series that came before it always had these lush environments, and they would have jungle levels and winter levels and so many different settings. In The Last of Us, they still do have that in a way, but it's all in America, if you know what I mean. It's not as varied, I would say, as if we look at something like Uncharted, and that's why I do hope that now that Uncharted is done and they only have The Last of Us and this new IP to continue with, that the variety in locations is going to be a little bigger than what they offered with The Last of Us, because although, as I said, it does have variety, it's just not like that big, if you get what I mean. So I really hope they keep that, and that's something that they're going to introduce again with that new IP. And then the sort of last point that I wanted to talk about is I think the pacing is really, really important with these linear story-driven type of games. I feel that what they've done with Uncharted 4 and with The Last of Us is they made the game slightly slower paced, where it's more about walking around and looking at the environment, talking a lot to characters. Now, they already did that with the previous Uncharted games as well, but to a lesser extent, where the pacing was definitely much faster. You know, Uncharted 2 will always remain my favorite Naughty Dog game, simply because I thought the pacing was perfect. It constantly had you on the edge of your seat, you wanted to continue the entire time, and they always had something else to show you. You either got in a new gunfight or you know, a new platforming thing or a puzzle or whatever, right? And I don't know what it was, but it was just, yeah, it definitely was a little faster paced, right? I really like how they made you go through that game so quickly and feel like there was something happening all the time. And with Uncharted and with The Last of Us, Uncharted 4, sorry, they definitely took that time a lot more, which is what I personally am not as big of a fan of. You know, it's still cool and it's still very good, of course. It's a taste thing for sure, but yeah, I just preferred the Uncharted 2 style pacing that they introduced there. And so I really hope that the next game is gonna kind of step it up again, because, you know, The Last of Us in one way could be that more slower type of game than that they do, and this new IP could be much faster in a way while still being a linear story driven type of experience with varied locations and stuff. I mean, I'm just like, I don't really know what exactly I could, as I said in the beginning of this video, it's hard for me to really come up with something substantial, right? I can't just come up with an idea here for Naughty Dog's next new IP that is going to blow everybody away, where you're like, oh yes, that's what they totally should do. No, I'll be fine with a fantasy game, with a sci-fi game, with something completely different, as long as they pull it off great. And I have no doubt in my mind that Naughty Dog will come up with something really cool that they're going to do there. So we will once again, you know, just have a great game from them. But me personally, what I want from a next Naughty Dog game is that it's a linear story-driven third-person type of game that's a real experience, where at the end of the game you'll just be like, man, I'm so glad I watched this story unfold. It was so worth it. With varied locations, with a nice pacing to it as well, you know, where replaying it you'll still be very entertained doing so. And then, you know, if they do that, then I'm sure I'm going to really look forward to the next Naughty Dog game. So with that being said, that was everything I guess I could talk about. Seth, I hope I kind of answered your question the best way I could here. So thanks a lot for your topic, and then thanks to all of the Patreon supporters right now for helping me out there, because it really, you know, I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me that you're willing to, you know, really help support me right now in the times that I'm in, where I'm trying to take YouTube more and more seriously. So thanks a lot to all my patrons for that. If you want to, you can still become a patron, as I said, and for the smallest, you know, smallest amount that you support me with, you already get access to, for example, an exclusive video every single month. So really cool stuff there, and there's even bigger rewards for the people that want to support me in a bigger way there. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video, everybody. Leave a quick like if you did, it really helps me out. And then yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again next time.